The train flew through snow-covered steppes and snow-covered forests. Jacob was on his way home from a business trip. The business trip had ended ahead of schedule, 10 days earlier than planned. At home, he had a daughter who was already 14 years old and a son who had just started first grade. His wife, Jane, worked in a construction firm as an engineer, and she also had business trips, but they stoically endured the separation. It should be taken into account that 4 years ago, Zoe, a relative of his wife, came to them from the village. She graduated from a pedagogical university, got married, but things didn't work out with her husband, and they divorced. In the village where she worked, the school was closed, there was no work, and Jane took Zoe to live with her. It worked out very well. Zoe, who had no children of her own, helped her around the house and took care of the children. She got a job at a school teaching elementary school. She worked mostly in the first shift. My wife, without waiting for the end of maternity leave, went to work. From the looks of it, they lived amicably. The wife's apartment was rented to tenants, but Jane did it herself and used the money received from the tenants, with Jacob's consent, for her own needs. Here appeared the city buildings. The train was approaching the city. People reached the exit. Jacob and his partner also stood in line, waiting for the stop. A successful business trip, thought Jacob. He managed to sell his program developed for construction, and the customer paid for it in cash. The train stopped. They left the car on the platform, said goodbye to their partner, and went home. Only the daughter, Natalie, was at home. After greeting her, she said, Zoe today receives a salary and goes after lessons with David to buy him new winter boots, and the old ones, his fingers do not fit. So why isn't Mom buying? Mom also went on a business trip the same day you left. It's strange she didn't tell me anything about it. I talked to her yesterday. She won't tell you. Why not, Dad? You're living in the woods. Mom's been doing this for a long time. What is it when you go on a business trip, Mom doesn't sleep at home either, and we sit with Zoe? Zoe's been more of a mom than a real mom to me for a long time. Where does she sleep at night? In her apartment. That's where the tenants live. There's been no tenants there for 2 years. Where does she get the money from renting out her apartment? Zoe pays her to rent the room. Excuse me, paying her how? And she buys my kids shoes. Who else knows about this? This one, my mom's friend Felix. How do you know? So they came out of the driveway together today, got in his car, and drove off, like I guess to work. Where did they leave from? Mom's apartment. I went to our girl's house this morning on behalf of the class teacher. She's sick and stays home, and her windows face the entrance where Mom's apartment is. I was standing at the window in my friend's apartment when they came out of the driveway and got in the car. Maybe he was just picking her up. Dad, the car was cold. It took him a long time to start it. Then he warmed it up, and then they drove off. Felix lives across town, you know where. Listen, daughter, don't say anything to anybody and don't bring it up. I'll talk to Zoe. Dad, you realize Mom's been cheating on you for a long time, right? Go do your homework. I have to think. For Jacob, this discovery was a blow. He'd noticed for a long time that Felix and Jane had a very close relationship. He attributed it to the fact that they have different firms, but the direction of work is the same. They had offices in the same building, only Felix lived far away from the center, in his wife's cottage, and his wife worked near her home and in the center almost never visited. Jacob's office was in the other direction. The front door clicked, and Zoe and David entered the apartment. David quickly undressed and happily flew up to his father. Dad, you made it great. You promised to go skiing with us. Oh, and I bought me new boots. Look, David walked in front of his father in his new boots, which he hadn't taken off. Zoe came out of her room. She smiled at Jacob and said, Welcome home. Have you eaten? Yes, thank you. Sit down, eat. Eat too. How much are the boots? They're not expensive, but they're comfortable. How much? Zoe said the price. Jacob took out the money and gave it to her. Then Jacob asked Zoe, How much does my wife charge you for staying with us? I thought you knew. There's a lot I don't know. How much and for how long? Zoe thought about it. came up with an amount. Turns out she'd been paying for her room for 2 years now. In fact, she'd been doing all the housework Jane was supposed to be doing. Jacob retired to the bedroom, sitting on the bed, thinking. He tied up all the loose threads. Jane, taking advantage of her relative's desperate situation, had made a domestic servant out of her and was pulling money out of her. Freed from domestic duties, she had an affair with the married Felix, and it was very convenient. They worked next to each other in the same building. They knew each other from university. A lot of the White's behavior fell into place. At the same time, the affair hit Jacob hard. He felt like his heart had just been ripped out. And the more he thought about it, the more he felt lost and alone. David came running into the bedroom, asking, "Dad, so are we going skiing?" "Sure, son, but not today. Tomorrow is Friday, we're getting ready, and we're going to go to the big hill on Saturday. Can we take Hannah with us? We'll give her mom skis. She's on a business trip till next Friday anyway." "It's a deal. Go do your homework." After thinking, Jacob went to the kitchen. Zoe was washing dishes. Jacob sat down at the table and asked Zoe, "Do you know that my wife is cheating on me?" Not expecting such a direct question, Zoe dropped the plate, and it broke. "Zoe, fuss. Oh, this is so embarrassing. I'll clean it up." "Zoe, don't avoid the question. Just leave the plate. I'll clean it up myself. Sit down, and we'll talk." Zoe sighed, as before jumping into the water, and sat down at the table, raised her eyes to Jacob, and said, "Yes, I knew, and for a long time. I told her it wouldn't end well. She has everything, beautiful children, a loving husband, an apartment, a good job. And she said Jacob needed the kids, so let her raise them. She didn't really need the apartment, and at work, she has proven herself, and in any case, as a specialist, she's still valued. Nevertheless, she doesn't want to divorce Jacob. Jacob is stability and confidence." "Where are they meeting?" "I assume at her apartment, which she supposedly rents out to tenants." "How long has it been empty?" "About 2 years." "Did you have to tell her I was coming?" "No, she didn't ask me to." "That's good. I'm going to go help David with his homework. Also, we should get Natalie some new sneakers. She's a girl, and she wants to look fashionable. They have them in the store right now. If I don't burden you, please go with her to the store and buy her sneakers. Here's the money." "What a burden. I will, of course, I will." Jacob went to the bedroom. Natalie came in, said, "I'm going with Zoe to buy new sneakers tomorrow." "Did you give her the money?" "Yes, I asked Zoe to help you buy sneakers. I'd like to buy a fancy tracksuit too. Mom promised 6 months ago, but she's busy. Here's the money, and tell Zoe, I've arranged all these purchases." "Oh, there's a lot of dads here. Will Aunt Zoe, who's wearing a coat, come skiing with us? Besides, our mom's already ripped her off." "What? Have you decided?" "For now, I've decided to break up with her for good." "Yes, daughter, for good. And me and David, and you and me, do you mind?" "What about Aunt Zoe?" "She's a relative of Mom's. I'm not kicking her out. She'll live in her room like she used to, but she won't give me any money from her paycheck for living expenses, and I'll buy my own groceries or buy them with her and bring them home with my own money. You think that'll work?" "Of course, it would work, especially since that's how we lived, only she still had expenses." "What about now?" "I'm going to zero out our joint card, leave some pennies on it, so Jane won't miss it right away. In fact, I need you to help me out a little bit. Get Zoe." Zoe came. They sat down on the ottoman next to Jacob, and he said, "Zoe, I gave Natalie the money. Please go out tomorrow and buy her and you some fancy tracksuits besides sneakers. No objections. You said yourself that Natalie is a girl and she wants to be fashionable. You two are a beautiful woman and should be fashionable. Besides, I'm inviting you to go skiing in the country with us on Saturday. I'll make arrangements today and rent a cabin at the campground for 4. We'll leave early Saturday morning since your school has a 5-day work week with Saturday and Sunday off." "It won't be a problem." Jacob thought for a moment and continued, "You both knew what was going on behind my back, and you kept quiet. I don't blame you for that. but I would ask you to tell me the truth in the future. After what I found out about Jane today, I don't want to talk to her. I don't want to hear her explanations and excuses. I don't want to hear her promises. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to go on with her in the rest of my life. I will not leave my children. Jane has her own apartment where she's registered. Here today, I'll change the locks so she can't get in while we're gone. I think it'll be resolved in 2 weeks, and I'll take the day off. What I'm going to ask of you, help me pack and organize all of Jane's things. As soon as they leave for work tomorrow, I'll take them to Jane's apartment. I have a spare key now. I'll go to Felix's wife and tell her everything. If she makes the same decision, I'll take his things there tomorrow. Having announced his decision, Jacob began to pack. An hour later, he went into the sewing atelier owned by Felix's wife. The atelier was engaged in repairing and sewing clothes. He went into her office. She was alone. When she saw Jacob, she said cheerfully, "Hello, nice to see you." "Hello, Christine. How's yours?" "He's away on business again. He'll be back at the end of the week." "I wonder if he's got someone else on the side," said Christine, laughing. Jacob responded in kind, "On the side?" "No, he's having an affair here, among his own people. He sleeps with my wife in her apartment, and they never went anywhere, not on any business trip." "Jacob, that's not funny." "Christine, I'm telling the truth. I only found out today. I'll pack Jane's things and take them to her apartment tomorrow while they're at work. I won't let her back into my apartment. And I've come to tell you that." Christine was petrified. The smile was gone from her face. Her lips were stubbornly tight, and she asked, "When will Jane arrive from her business trip, like yours?" "Next Friday." "How long have they had it tentatively?" 2 years. They've been making fools of us and the kids, your kids, I mean. Natalie knows and is packing up Jane's things now. David hasn't said anything yet, except my kid's best mom today is her relative Zoe. She's living with us, as you know. What's going to happen to her? Nothing. She's a good housekeeper, and she's good with the kids. The main thing is that the kids love her. I'll pay her extra for that. Tell me, what's your decision, Jacob? This is all so sudden. How much time do you give me to think about it? Until tomorrow, until 9 a.m. At that time, I'll take Jane's things to her apartment while you're thinking. And if a business traveler calls you, please don't say or imply anything. I'm taking mine out to the campground on Saturday to unwind. If you want, take Maria and come with us. I'll book a 6-bed cabin. You know I'll take the invitation to the campground right away. Will you pick us up? Yes, before dark, so we can be there at dawn. Okay, I'm off. Wait, how long does it take to change the locks? About 15 minutes. It only changes the lock face. Your cottage has the same locks as ours. Can I help you with that? Yes, if you can help me. Jacob drove over, bought the locks, then drove with Christine to her cottage, where he changed 4 locks, 2 in the house, 1 in the garage, and 1 on the gate. When he had finished the job, Christine said, "By what time should his things be packed tomorrow?" "Let's do it by 8 o'clock. I'll just change the car, so we can drive comfortably on Saturday. I'll borrow a buddy's 7-seater bus. I'll leave him my car, although he can't go further than the bathroom with a broken leg." Jane woke up before the alarm clock rang. Felix was sleeping next to her. She dated him in college, but things hadn't worked out, and they'd had a fight. Felix met Christine and married her. No, she had no love for Felix then, nor did she have it now. But the fact that he chose her over someone else after what they had hurt her a lot. As it happened, when she got out of her maternity leave, she met Felix in the building their firm rented. At first, they had just chatted, but 2 years ago, when her husband was away on a business trip and Zoe was at home with the kids, she had let him invite her over for a visit. His wife had gone to visit her sick mother for a week, and Felix was alone. From that time on, they began to meet regularly. At the same time, neither Felix nor she was willing to part with their doormats. Felix put it all this way: "What is happening between us is love, but if we live together, it will just be a dull married life." She agreed with him. These unspoken meetings tickled her nerves, though they were time-consuming. Jane found a way out too by putting all the housework on her relative Zoe, whom she took in, or rather in her husband's 4-room apartment. She rented out her apartment to tenants, but when she started dating Felix, she evicted the tenants and used the apartment for private meetings. Sometimes she showed her husband money, but she got it from Zoe, who paid her rent for the room she rented in Jacob's apartment. And now, after her husband had left on a long business trip, they too had arranged a business trip for themselves. 7 more days of pleasure remained, and the following Friday, they were going home. Jane was already thinking of ending the affair, as there was a known risk, and Zoe knew about it. She decided for herself to tell Felix that this was a farewell meeting, got to get back to her families. She loved her husband and children, as Felix loved his wife, Christine, and daughter, Maria, and they didn't want to ruin anything. She looked at her watch and decided it was time to get up. She had to take a shower to look fresh, prepare Felix's breakfast, put on makeup. In the evening, after work, they planned to go to the theater. There was no risk here. Felix's wife lived in another part of the city and was hardly ever in the center. Jacob was on a long business trip. Felix went outside, started the car, warmed up the engine. 15 minutes later, Jane jumped out of the driveway, got into the car, and they left for work. Just then, a Citroen Space Tourer pulled up in its place, and Jacob and his companion got out. They opened the car doors and carried packages, cardboard boxes, and bags into Jane's apartment. There was a lot of stuff, and they had to make 5 trips. On top of the unloaded things piled in a heap in the middle of the room, they put 2 inventories of possessions. Jacob walked to the bedroom, went to the large mirror, picked up a lipstick, and wrote on the mirror, "Goodbye." Then he put the key on the dresser and left the apartment, slamming the door shut. He left and realized that he had just closed a page of his life of 15 years. What awaited him next, he did not know. He only remembered that he had a daughter, and she had a rather difficult age, that he had a son who had just started school, and tonight, he lived only for them. Last night, Jacob hardly slept. His nerves were strained to the limit. Tears rolled from his eyes. He was shattered and held himself back only because the children were sleeping in their rooms nearby. Jacob returned home. The kids were at school. Zoe was at work. He took out the skis, fixed the bindings, tied them in pairs, put them in the hallway, prepared the necessary things for the trip. Then he turned on the computer and got busy writing another program. The work calmed him down. After an hour, his son came in from school and said, "Oh no," and Natalie ran to the store. "They'll be back soon." "What can I do for you?" "You can sit down and do your homework because tomorrow and the day after tomorrow we'll have an active vacation, and you won't have time for that." "Are you going to eat?" "No, Dad, I've already eaten. I'm going to do my homework for Monday." After half an hour, Zoe and Natalie came. They bought sportier ski suits and sneakers. Jacob asked them to put on the new clothes and show him. Jacob liked what he saw. Zoe and Natalie looked very harmonious next to each other. They discussed together what they would do there. Jacob also told them that Christine and Maria were coming with them. He warned Natalie and Zoe not to talk about Jane and Felix in front of Christine and Maria. They agreed to go to bed early. Zoe, wasting no time, made sandwiches for the road. Jane and Felix came out of the theater in full delight. They liked the play. Cheerfully discussing the play, they got in the car and drove home. Pulling up to their pad, Jane unlocked the apartment and walked inside. Since there wasn't much room in the hallway, she went straight into the hall without undressing, unbuttoning her coat as she went. She flicked on the light switch and froze in horror, seeing the mountain of things in the center of the room. Jane realized everything. She shrieked. Felix flew in, who also saw the pile of stuff in the center of the room and asked, "Jacob figured us out, and not just Jacob. Here is an inventory of your things, made as I think by your wife. What are we going to do?" "I don't know." "I'll call my wife now," Felix said. He dialed Christine's phone, but it was out of range, the same with his daughter's phone. Then he told Jane, "Call Jacob." "What will I tell him?" "That I'm living in an apartment with a lover." "Well, he seems to know that himself." "Zoe won't move my stuff, and neither will yours." Call Zoe. Jane dialed Zoe's number, but she too was out of range. She dialed Jacob's phone, but he was out of range too. She went into the bedroom and turned on the light. On the mirror, with Jacob's hand in red lipstick, was written, "Goodbye. There's no going back." And there was a spare set of keys to this apartment. Zoe sank into a chair and burst into tears. Felix came into the room and said, "Come on, let's get something to eat and decide what we're going to do." Jane undressed, threw her coat in the hall, and went into the kitchen followed by Felix. He took out a bottle of cognac and a bottle of dry wine from the refrigerator and put it on the table. Jane put 2 cognac glasses and said, "I'll have some cognac tonight too. Tomorrow in the morning, I'll go home and apologize. He's a wimp and will regret what he did today. I don't know how things will work out for you. Christine will be nervous for a week, and then she'll come crawling back. It's a shame she found out. I think we should stop seeing each other." "I didn't say that," Felix replied. "You're right, though. We should have broken up sooner. I think that's when some of the leaks happened. Maybe a little earlier. Jacob was planning on coming home next week, and he always did. Obviously, he emailed me, or he got here early for some reason, or someone called him. Does it matter? Of course, it matters. I think the important thing is that we got caught and how we're going to get out of it. Let's plan for tomorrow. Let's do it in the morning. You drop me off at my house, and I go in, you wait outside. If you need me, I'll call you. Here's our story. I couldn't find any tenants, so you went to look at the apartment. We came over, and somehow by chance, we slept together. Then Jacob went away on a business trip, and we decided to live together for a while because we weren't happy in our marriages. We lived, realized it was a mistake, and wanted to go back, so we would never experiment like that again. Question: if you call me, won't yours put up a fight? No, he's a weakling in life, although he's a tough guy. Just a question, will you need me at your meeting with Christine? I don't think so. I'll be fine on my own. Also, you should send an email to Jacob's email account. He's going to read it anyway. With that decided, Jane typed on her tablet, Jacob, it's not what you think. I only love you and our children. Linking up with Felix was a mistake. I'm sorry I did an ugly thing to you and our children, and I repent for what happened. We need to meet and talk tomorrow at 9 a.m. I will come to your house. Felix and I broke up. Your stupid wife, Jane. The email was sent. Jane checked several times over the course of an hour to see if a reply had arrived, but there was not even a notification that the email had been read. At 4 o'clock in the morning, Jacob slipped in, went for a quick wash, turned on the kettle, and began to dress himself. Zoe also woke up, came out of her room, and asked Jacob, should I wake up the children? Yes, wake up slowly. I'll go warm up the car. Jacob went out to the parking lot. A neighbor who worked at night drove up. We said hello. The neighbor asked, where are you going this early, or did you just get here? I decided to take the kids to the campground. I want to make full use of the daylight hours to go skiing. I see you've got some serious skis. Yeah, we splurged a lot of money. Why only 2 pairs? We'll rent them for the kids. This is for me and Zoe. Isn't your wife coming? No, she's on a business trip, a long one, forever, I think. What's up? I'm getting a divorce. I see, but you know best, although Zoe is younger and prettier and less arrogant. I haven't thought about it yet. Zoe is just helping me with the kids. You shouldn't think about it. It's a shame to lose such a beautiful girl. I see you got a new car. I borrowed it from a buddy. I got mine right over there. My buddy didn't take it, said he didn't need it, my leg's broken. Well, good luck. I'm going to bed. The car started. Jacob left it running, closed it, and went home to get the things they had taken with them. At home, a sleepy David put on his ski suit and new sneakers. Jacob asked Zoe, Zoe, is there anything you want to say about what, where did David get the new sneakers? I just forgot when we tried on his shoes the day before yesterday. I looked at those sneakers, tried them on, and decided to buy them when we had a chance. And yesterday, with Natalie, they bought her sneakers, and we were given a good discount. The sellers remembered us. With David, the money you gave us was enough for everything, and I wanted to tell you, but I didn't have time, and then you went to bed. I didn't bother you, Zoe. Please don't waste your money on the kids. If you need anything, I'll give you the money. A sleepy Natalie came out of the room, half-dressed. She said, Daddy, good morning. Why do you have to be so early? If you don't want to ride in the dark, then sure, I'm ready. Then why don't you get all dressed up and sleep in the car? Finally, the packing was finished. Everyone went outside and got in the car. Zoe got in the back seats with the kids. Jacob called Christine back and said, we'll be there in 30 minutes. We're already up and we're having breakfast. Also, I told Maria what happened. And how was she? She was upset, but then she said she loved me and that I did the right thing. As for Daddy, she's never seen him. He's always working, and weekends, friends, sauna. Don't forget that my daughter is 6 months older than your daughter. That's it. Maria is coming. We're waiting for you. Half an hour later, Jacob took Christine and Maria and drove out to the highway. Next to him in the passenger seat sat Christine. It was still dark outside, but Zoe's streak was already cutting across the horizon. The sunrise was beginning. Christine asked Jacob, what kind of weather are they promising? You know it's going to be warm all these days. Did you bring your swimsuits? Yes, of course. Maria went on the internet and found out everything about this center. How are you feeling? Not good, but there are no options. I've done this before with Felix, but he wasn't caught. It was just suspicion, and I forgave him. But now I just can't accept him. After a few hours of driving, they turned off the highway and drove through mountainous terrain. Another hour and they drove up to the campground. The kids, who had fallen asleep while driving, were starting to wake up. Jacob quickly checked in and drove to the designated lodge. Outside, Zoe followed. They were checked into a 2-story VIP house. It was suitable for a family or a company of 6 to 7 people. 3 double rooms with TV, all 3 rooms with 1.5 separate beds, a living room with a real fireplace and soft furniture allowing you to spend time in a cozy atmosphere. There was a refrigerator, oven, amenities, shower, toilet, wash basin, jacuzzi. The cabin was organized as follows: Jacob and David in one room, Christine and Zoe in another, Maria and Natalie in the third. The lodge itself was located at the end of the main road of the campground and the green embrace of the forest. Nearby was a small area where there was a barbecue grill for cooking. As things were laid out, Zoe quickly set the table in the living room. Christine added her own food that she had brought with her, and they had breakfast. Then they decided it was time to go skiing. They went to the ski rental shop and picked up skis and boots for Christine, Maria, Natalie, and David. While they were changing, Maria took her skis, stepped aside, and decided to grease them with ski ointment. Jacob was helping with David's skis, Natalie was doing her skis, and Zoe and Christine were doing theirs. Suddenly, Maria's angry voice sounded, "Leave me alone. Why are you bothering me?" Jacob immediately approached Maria, near whom stood a man, his ears. "What happened?" "Yes, he's bothering me," said Maria. Christine also ran up and, ready to hit, attacked the man with the words, "What do you want from my girl?" The man, a head taller than Christine, staring at her, laughed and replied, "Your daughter smeared ointment on one ski, then mixed it up, took my ski, and smeared it. Now she has 2 different skis, and it is not certain that she and I will be able to ski together. We have different sizes and ski lengths." Maria looked, and indeed she had skis of different colors and lengths in her hands. She laughed and said, "Excuse me, please. It was an accident." Christine and Jacob laughed as well. The man introduced himself. My name is John, and I have to ask the young lady to give me her ski ointment to lubricate my other ski. They don't slide the same way. Excuse me. Of course, said the young lady, you are John. She took the ointment, greased the other ski, and gave it to Maria. She ran with Christine to the exit. John greased his second ski, gave the ointment to Jacob, and said, "What a good wife and daughter do you have. My wife was ready to kill me just like a kite. That's not my wife or my daughter. My daughter and son went over there with Zoe, and this is Christine. She's divorcing her husband now, so she's basically a free woman." "I'm divorcing my wife," said the man, "and you've decided to live together?" No, it's just that my wife and her husband are lovers. We caught them. They were friends. And Zoe, she's a relative who helps me with my kids. And Christine, she lives with her daughter, Maria. Who are you?" "I'm a surgeon, recently returned from abroad. I worked with the Red Cross doctors. Single. I was married, but the wife who was with me in Africa died of some obscure disease 3 years ago, and there was nothing we could do to see her die. That's when I decided my mission in Africa was over, came here, and worked in the city hospital. Listen, let's go to the elevator or everyone will go upstairs." Jacob and John walked out of the rental shop and caught up with the others at the ski elevator. Jane opened her eyes. Felix was not there. He had slept in the hall at night. She came out of the bedroom and saw that Felix was already sitting in the kitchen, drinking coffee. It looked like he had been up all night. Seeing that Jane was awake, he said, "Hello, good morning. We don't know how good it is yet. I'm taking a shower. Make me some coffee." "What's there to make coffee for?" "Put a spoonful of coffee and boiling water. It's instant." After getting out of the shower, Jane sat down at the table in the kitchen. She forced herself to eat a couple of sandwiches, drank some coffee. Her nerves were strained to the limit. She walked to the bedroom, sat in front of the mirror on which a sign reminded her that there was no going back. I did my makeup a little pale to make my face look haggard, tinted her eyebrows and eyelashes, applied lipstick. After looking around herself, she was satisfied with her slightly haggard appearance. She chose a pantsuit from clothes she had brought, which suited her very well. She quickly ironed it. After looking at herself again, she said to Felix, "I'm ready." "For what?" "To go back to my family." "Do you think it'll work?" "We were so brave yesterday under the brandy, but they'll send us away today." "Who's going to be sent away?" "You, Jacob, me, Christine. I think Jacob will say something and forgive us." "Where will he go?" "I don't know. About Christine, it's easier for me. With Christine, she'll be offended for a week or two and forgive me. Still, the feminine will prevail." "Okay, let's go." They got dressed, went outside, and got in the car. When they arrived at the yard, they noticed Jacob's car parked in the parking lot. Jane went up to the landing, got the keys, but the key would not go into the lock. In addition, the door was also locked with a second block, which they did not normally do. Realizing that Jacob had changed the locks, Jane started ringing the doorbell, but there was no response. The door was not opened. On reflection, she went to the neighboring house where the emergency service was located. 4 workers were sitting in the workshop, playing dominoes. Jane turned to them, "Sorry to interrupt. I need to open the door. My husband locked it. I left the keys at home, and he went on a business trip. I'll pay." The older worker looked at Jane with an appraising look, replied, "Do you have any documents?" "Yes, of course. Here's my passport. I live next door." The older worker took the passport, leafed through it, and returning the document said, "Jane, you are registered in another district of the city. Go to your specialists." "But I told you that I live in the next house with my husband." "I understand, but for an autopsy like this, you'd have to invite the police." "How do you do that?" "Well, he lives in our building. I'll call him back." The older man dialed a number, explained something, and put Jane on the phone. The policeman listened to Jane's confused explanations without understanding anything and said that he would be there in 15 minutes. Jane, in the meantime, dialed Felix, to whom she said, "Don't wait for me. They seem to have closed and won't open. Go to your Christine." "I'm not waiting. I'm on my way. I'll be there in 10 minutes. A policeman came by, checked Jane's ID. He said he talked to the neighbors just in case. In one of the apartments, a sleepy man dressed in a bathrobe opened the door. After finding out what the problem was, he said Jacob and the kids and Zoe had gone to a ski tour base very early. It was still dark. In a car he borrowed from a friend, he said he was divorcing his wife. The policeman on duty contacted the campground and confirmed that Jacob and his children were skiing on the hill. He went down to the landing and turned to Jane. "Why didn't you tell me you were getting a divorce?" "And who? I'm not getting a divorce, and Zoe is a relative of mine, an adult." "Yes, of course, she's a school teacher. You see, it's a family matter, and it's none of our business. We won't open the door because there's no one in the apartment. Where do you want me to go?" "To your place of residence. Your husband will be back on Sunday afternoon. Come and talk to him. Goodbye." The policeman left, and that's when Felix called. "You know, Christine changed all the locks in the house, the garage, and the gate, and there's neither her nor her daughter at home. Where could she be? Plus, she's canceled all my cards except for the one she didn't know about. I think she's where Jacob and the kids are. Maybe they decided to live together. I'm going to rip her legs off." "How are you doing?" "Nothing. I'm a man." "Oh, come on, a man. What do you want?" "I don't have a place to stay. Will you let me stay at your place just for 2 days, and then I have to show Jacob that I've broken up with you, that he's the only one I love, so I'm out on the street." "No, I can give you a room, but for a fee." "Don't worry, I won't charge too much." "Well, if you don't want to, don't." "All right, I'm going then. Buy some bread and 2 bottles of cognac." "Isn't that too much?" "What, bread?" "No, cognac." "You're right. Take 3 bottles." The whole company took the elevator up the mountain. From there were several descents, one of them a gentle one for children and beginners who had just started skiing. Jacob was helping his son learn the ins and outs of downhill skiing while Jane organized help for Christine, Zoe, Maria, and Natalie. He briefly said, "Alpine skiing is not difficult. Anyone can easily learn it, even a child. The main thing is desire and a little basic skiing technique." Gradually, John's lessons yielded results, and soon they began to descend very carefully and to fall less than at first. By lunchtime, on the children's slope, they were unrivaled. After riding, they decided to go to the restaurant for a meal and invited John. He agreed, and in about 30 minutes, their company was sitting in the luxurious hall of the restaurant and having lunch. Then came the suggestion to go to the pool. Jane kept them company there. In the pool, they realized that they had had such a heavy lunch in vain. Nevertheless, after swimming, they sat under various water fountains. After that, they went, changed their clothes, had dinner, and went to the dance. Maria and Natalie showed great technique of fast modern dances and received applause from the tourists. Jacob and Zoe, John and Christine amazed everyone with their Viennese waltzes. The waltz was performed by them at a fast pace and swiftly. The beauty of the Viennese waltz performed by them lurked in the changing tempo and in the constantly alternating left and right turns. No other couples even attempted to enter the set, all admiring the beautiful performance. When the dance was over, there was a standing ovation. The blushing Christine held John's hand, and for the first time in days, smiled embarrassedly. Next to her stood Jacob, hugging Zoe. Since for the best performance of the dance was a prize, and both couples were recognized as the best, they were awarded 2 bottles of champagne, and Maria and Natalia received a bottle of Coca-Cola and a box of chocolates. At the end of the dance, Jacob invited Jane to his cabin for a light evening dinner. They arrived at the guest house. Zoe and Christine set the table, fruit, sandwiches. The girls put candy on the table. They had champagne, the kids drank Coca-Cola, ate candy. After that, quite tired, they went to bed. The adults were left alone, but it was already late. John, apologizing, said that it was time to rest, thanked everyone and especially Christine for a wonderful evening. They agreed to meet tomorrow at the slide. Zoe and Christine started to clear the table. Jacob offered to help, but they sent him off to rest. When he left, Zoe asked, "What do you think of John?" "You know, a very handsome and cultured man. No fuss, no bragging, no gimmicks, and very tactful. You can tell he's very educated." "I agree with you. And he seems to have a crush on you." "You think so?" "I noticed right away when you scolded him about hitting on your daughter, he wasn't mad at you, he was admiring you, your anger." "Thank you. I have to get through this divorce with Felix." "Yeah, that's going to be tough. Can't you forgive him?" "No, no way. He's done this before, but I couldn't prove it then with Jane." "No, it was someone else. I forgave him then because there was no proof." "You should have. He's going to live with Jane." "That's a problem too. I wrote a letter to his mom, which I emailed and included Jane's address. I think his mom will be here tomorrow." "You tell me, why did you get divorced?" "I was young, stupid, and he wooed me so nicely I couldn't resist. I got married, and he started drinking. He took everything from home and drank it all away. He was kicked out of work several times for drinking. I'm a teacher, the intelligentsia of the village, and he's an alcoholic, and I couldn't do anything. We got divorced. After the divorce, he went to his mother's house in a neighboring village. Mother also liked to drink. Once, during a harvesting season, he fell asleep drunk in the field, and a combined harvester passed over him. I found out about it when he was buried, and then his mother died. The school was closed. Jane invited me over. I thought it was a family thing, but she just wanted a free servant." "What now? You're going to leave Jacob?" "I can't leave Jacob. I'm attached to him and his kids. If he kicks me out, then I'll leave." "So you love him?" "Yes, and the way he reacted to Jane's affair, I was amazed. Why does she hate him so much? I mean, she had it all. I don't know, maybe he'll forgive her. 15 years together. No, Zoe, he'll never forgive her. And I think you're destined to live with him. What about you?" "I don't know about me. The scars on my heart are still fresh. It doesn't happen overnight, but I was kind of inwardly prepared for this when Jacob told me everything. It was heartbreaking, and then it didn't matter. I live for Maria now." "That's not right. You're a beautiful, self-sufficient woman. You have to think about yourself. Listen, let's look at the hospital website, shall we?" "What's on it?" They opened the city hospital website and saw a picture of John surrounded by young nurses in the Doctor of the Year section. Zoe said, "Look at the competition you're expected to have." "Zoe, don't think about it. Let's go to bed." Jane woke up slowly, her head was tearing up with some kind of ringing. She opened her eyes and tried to understand what was that ringing in her ears. Yesterday with Felix, they had a good sit down and managed with a 0.7L bottle of cognac. While they were drinking, they had a row and almost fought. Neither of them wanted to give in to the other in the dispute, and the dispute arose from the question, who's to blame? Drunken swearing, mutual accusations, and insults did not solve this question. Later on, it was turned to the second eternal question, what to do? And again, the parties did not come to a common agreement because this question was interrupted with the first one. In the end, heavily intoxicated, as Jane had dosed, the appetizer, according to the principle of what you brought, what you eat, Felix collapsed on the sofa in the hall. She reached the bedroom, where she fell asleep without undressing. And then that ringing. She realized it was the doorbell. It could only be Jacob or Felix's wife, Christine. Jane, with her makeup smeared on her face, got up and opened the door, not even bothering to see who was there. On the threshold stood a pretty woman in tears with a cane on which she leaned. "Is Felix here?" "Yes, he's still asleep." Without another word, the woman pushed Jane aside and went into the apartment. She entered the hall and saw the mess and Felix sleeping on the floor, who had apparently fallen asleep while undressing. She smacked Felix on the back with her cane. He howled. Jane rushed to the woman with words, "Woman, what are you doing? You're going to kill him." The woman turned around and hit Jane in the face with her cane, blood gushing from her nose, saying, "I'll show you adultery. And you poor, I'll kill you and that little brat too." At the same time, she began to hit Jane and Felix with her cane. Felix, waking up, not realizing what was happening, jumped to his feet. He blocked the woman's hands and finally opened his eyes and wailed, "Mom. I'm sorry. It just happened. It just happened. Your daddy was a cheater too, but I never caught him once in my whole life. He told me about his exploits when he was dying, and I cursed him. And I'm gonna beat that out of you and you too." Jane grabbed a rag, pressed it to her nose, trying to stop the blood, and disappeared into the bathroom. The woman continued, "Christine is a holy woman. If it weren't for her, you would never have finished your education. She found you a job, she gave you a home, and she gave you a beautiful daughter, you ungrateful pig." Then she switched to Jane, "Come here. You have 2 children, husband is not the last man, everything in the house. He goes on business trips, earns good money, and you stab him in the back. And now you're hiding." Then Felix said sharply, "Let go of me, Mom." Felix let go of his mother's hands, and then a new command followed, "Put your things in the car. You pack your own. Give up any hope that Christine will forgive you. You slept your wife and daughter with that litter on that filthy couch. Do you dare ruin your daughter and Christine's life? Maybe she'll find happiness. Mom, don't be so tragic. I'm going to make up with Christine." "No, neither you nor that will make up with her. If you don't bother her, maybe Christine will let me see my granddaughter. Pack up. We're leaving." "Mom, I still have work." "It's okay, you'll quit." It's early morning. Jacob's muscles were a little sore after yesterday's workout, skiing, pool, dancing. But they had to get up. His son was still sleeping sweetly with his fist under his cheek. Outside, Zoe's time was short, as all good things come to an end, and tonight they had to get back. Jacob fought, "Next time, let's go on Friday and before Monday." Slowly, he got up and went down to the living room, put the kettle on. At this time, Christine came out of the room and went downstairs. She said, "Good morning, Jacob. I wanted to put the kettle on." "How's the mood?" Jacob asked. "Good and a little sad," Christine replied. "Why good?" Jacob inquired. "Because we've had a wonderful vacation so far. Sad because it's all coming to an end, and we'll have to get back to our daily routine and deal with the divorce." "You finally decided to get a divorce, Christine?" Jacob questioned. "I told you that right away, and I won't change my mind." "There's no going back," Christine affirmed. "I'm just saying, Zoe seems to love you and your kids," Jacob observed. "I don't know. I hadn't really thought about it," Christine admitted. "Well, think about it now. And don't chase her away. Take care of her, the kids love her too. And look how touching they are to her. They don't think about their mom. By the way, did you know Natalie got her period 6 months ago? She's still a baby. You are, and the first appearance of menstruation in a woman occurs on average 12 to 14 years. And what it is and why it happens was told to your daughter not by her mother but by Zoe. She provided her with personal hygiene products." "Mom didn't have time," Jacob remarked. "So, are you trying to set me up with Zoe?" Christine questioned. "No, I'm just giving you advice. I don't want to interfere in anyone's life," Jacob clarified. Maria and Natalie appeared. They washed up and sat down at the table. Zoe came too. Seeing that David was not there, she went upstairs and woke him up, helped him get dressed, and brought him to the table. They had a quick breakfast. They did not go to the restaurant so as not to waste time. Soon they were on their way up the mountain. John was already there. He greeted the whole company, and the skating began. The girls dashingly drove down several times on the children's track, went up the mountain, and Mary had decided to ride on a winding track of increased difficulty level designed for experienced skiers. The slope angle is up to 40%. On such pistes, skiers can test their professionalism. For experienced alpine skiers, skiing on this piste requires some experience. Maria quickly developed a decent speed and disappeared around the corner. John asked Natalie, "Where is Maria?" "She went this way," Natalie replied. "Why?" John asked. Natalie rushed down, following, realizing that something wrong was going on. Jacob followed him. His premonitions were not deceived. Behind the second turn, in the middle of the track, Maria, in a red suit, was lying on the snow. John was already breaking nearer. Jacob also drove up, stopped, unhooked his skis, and stuck them in the snow so that they would not run away. John also ran up to Maria. John unhooked his skis and leaned over Maria. Maria was conscious, but her eyes were closed. John asked, "Where does it hurt?" "My left leg." "It hurts," Maria replied. After feeling the leg, John concluded, "It looks like a severe dislocation and concussion." "I can't determine the severity of the concussion, but she didn't lose consciousness, so it's either a mild concussion or a moderate concussion. We should get her upstairs to the cabin. Why don't you pack up our skis, and I'll carry her upstairs?" Jacob suggested. "Don't say anything to Christine. She just fell down," John said to Maria. "Okay, my girl. Put your arms around my neck. We have to go up 200 meters. How's your head?" Jacob asked Maria. "A little dizzy," Maria replied. "Be patient. You'll be bothered by certain symptoms for a month," Jacob reassured her. John, with Christine in his arms, slowly walked up the mountain. Jacob packed his skis and ski poles and followed. Since he had a smaller load, he gradually caught up with John and Maria. When they were on the same level, he suggested, "John, give Maria to me. I'll carry a little." "Jacob, thank you, but I'm still in shape. In Africa, I remember pulling a chief off a mountain, heat, mosquitoes, and machine gun fire. That was fun." "Did you save the chief?" John recounted. "Yeah, I'm still in touch with him via the internet," Jacob replied. "Do you know any African languages?" John asked. "No, I understand some of it, of course, but other than that, I don't know." "How do you communicate with the chief?" Jacob asked. "He graduated from our university. He still misses girls," John explained. "So he should go to Russia," Jacob joked. "He can't. He has 4 wives. When he was wounded, he asked for, let's say, a 5th, but they didn't understand him. The wounds were severe, so I did what I could. And then I had to take part in his evacuation. The other side had machine guns, and they used them very skillfully, so the matchmaking didn't work out," John elaborated. "Of course not. It worked out, but I changed my mind about getting married. It's complicated," Jacob concluded. At that time, the workers of the campground arrived on snowmobiles. They put Maria on a sled and took her to the medical center. About 10 minutes later, Jacob and John arrived there. John immediately took care of Maria. After careful examination, he came out to Jacob and said that everything was fine, but I'm going to take her to my hospital. I'm going to start the car. Why don't you let Christine come with you? Don't you worry and don't bother her. I'll do the x-rays. I'll keep an eye on the girl and bring her back to her house tonight if that's okay with you, John offered. No, I don't mind. Good luck, Jacob replied. Jacob turned in his rental skis and went back to the hill. He was met there by Christine, who asked, "Where have you all gone?" Maria sprained her leg. John took her to his hospital for x-rays. "We're going home after lunch." "Is plan land?" "Jacob, don't lie to me." "What about Maria?" Christine pressed. "I told you," John, just to reassure you, decided to do an x-ray that there are no cracks or fractures. "He's bringing Maria to your house tonight," Jacob explained. "Still, it's a little unsettling," Christine expressed. "Can I call John?" Christine asked. "Absolutely. Here's his business card with his phone number on it, except he's driving right now. Call me in an hour." "Where's my ride?" Jacob answered. Jacob said all this in a light and carefree manner, reassuring Christine, but a mother's heart was not easy to deceive. She immediately activated the phone and called John. He answered right away, confirming what Jacob had said. Christine then spoke to Maria over the phone. Maria assured her mother that she was fine but suggested getting her leg checked in the hospital just in case. With the phone disconnected, Christine entered the number into the phone book. At this time, in the city, in her apartment, Jane was sitting in the kitchen. A bottle of cognac was in front of her. An empty cognac glass was on the table. An appetizer was on a portable mirror. Jane looked in the mirror with horror, realizing that those bruises which her mother, Felix, had put on her could not be covered with anything. She would not be able to leave the house for a week. It had to be like that. Why did Christine give that witch her address? Well, she threw the guy out, and that's it. But no, she got her to the bottom of it. It's a good thing she doesn't have any relatives like that. How can Jacob show his face like that? Her eye was swollen, and there was a big bruise under her eye. Her elbows were also covered with abrasions and bruises from trying to cover herself with her hands. She couldn't show up for work like that either. And Felix didn't look any better. One of the blows from Cain had split his eyebrow, but even that didn't stop the angry mama. Maria, who gave Felix a command in an orderly tone, "Get your thing in the car, and you not to be seen near this idiot, Mom." What if I'm in love with Jane? Love? What kind of love does she have if she's got a husband, 2 kids, and a house full of money? After a couple more minutes of bickering, Felix obediently packed his things, loaded them into the car, and they drove away. Felix was sullenly silent. He had not felt such shame for a long time, but he was afraid to contradict his mother. His mother picked up the phone and dialed Christine's number. Christine, who had just finished talking to John and her daughter, decided to answer. "Good afternoon, Polly." "Hello, daughter. I'm so sorry about my short-tempered one. I'm taking him home to me. He will live near me." "I don't understand. Who is he like his father?" "Was out. Well, after work, he'll be late." But to go off like this to his, for 2 weeks, it's not the first time. He had a fling with one of them a long time ago. I took pity on him then, and I see it was for nothing. He's been seeing this one for 2 years. I won't take him back no matter how much I apologize. Maria won't understand me either. Maria knows everything too, Polly. Of course, Maria is already 15 years old, and she is not a silly girl. And she has already realized what kind of business trips her father has. That's what, daughter. I'm already in years, and I'm likely to see great-grandchildren. And you still need to raise Maria. If you meet a good man and he asks you to marry, don't even think about it, say yes. I'm only allowed to see Maria. I know Felix doesn't care, he'll think about it in 20 years. Also, file for alimony. God forbid he won't pay. And with divorce, you decide for yourself. Besides, remember, if I die, Maria is included in the will. I have something to leave her as an inheritance, valuables in the bank for safekeeping, and money. Polly, come on, live long and be healthy. Christine, how can you be healthy? Such a womanizer brought up. Forgive us, Christine. Can I talk to Maria? I called her, and her phone was disconnected. We went to the campground, she left her phone in the cabin, and before you called, she took the highway down. I can't get off that route. I'll tell her, she'll call you back tonight. Thank you, daughter. Polly disconnected the phone and said to her son, what a woman you've lost, you won't find another one like her. And remember, alimony for Maria is sacred, the girl should not need anything. So you have to look for a job now. Don't worry, I'll find you a job when we get there. If you don't want to work with your brains, you'll be a janitor, son. Why are you so careless? You're old enough and weak, but I won't let you ruin your granddaughter's life. Jane expected everything from Felix. From what he said, he was an eagle, and after his mom's visit, it was clear that he was nothing. At that time, the phone rang. It was Felix. Jane answered it without enthusiasm. I'm listening, Jane, honey. I'm sorry about my mom. Did she ask you to apologize? No, she was at the gas station, at the coffee shop. If you want, I'll talk to her right now, and I'll come to you, and we'll live together. Listen to me, you sexy wimp. Forget my number and forget about me. Jane hung up the phone, poured cognac into a glass, and drank it in one gulp. She realized that she had lost everything in her life. She realized that she did not love her husband or her children, much less Felix. It was just the way she liked it, and that's what she did, and her claim that she loved her husband was nothing more than self-delusion. But it was secure with him, and now there was nothing in her life. Jacob turned in the guest house after lunch, put Christine, Zoe, Natalie, and David in the warmed car, and they drove home. In town, passing the hospital, they called John, who answered, Maria fell asleep, her leg is fine. Moderate second-degree ankle sprain, ankle swollen and bruised, so walking will be painful and difficult. Healing takes a few days to a few weeks. I'll bring her back tonight. Jacob drove Christine home. He asked, do you need any help? No, Jacob. Thank you for a wonderful vacation. I'll be waiting for Maria. As for my husband, his mom took him to her place, so I don't think he'll be coming here. Who's his mom? Polly. Practiced gymnastics in her youth, she herself is from the intelligence. Worked in a library in a military unit, her husband was the commander of the unit, but she was in charge of the unit. She was feared there more than her husband, the commander. She was a civilian specialist in Afghanistan. There, along with the soldiers, were women volunteers, nurses, cooks, secretaries. But today their participation in the Afghan campaign is practically forgotten. They have no Afghan benefits that Afghan men have, and she was wounded there. And after that, she used to walk around the unit with a cane. The servicemen, among themselves, called this cane a combat striking force of the library. Back home, Zoe went to the kitchen to cook dinner. David did the lessons he hadn't finished. Natalie sat down to help him. Jacob turned on the computer, typed in John's last name, and started an internet search. About 15 minutes later, after browsing a number of sites, he called out, Zoe, come to me. Zoe walked in. Jacob pointed to the chair next to him. On the screen were pictures of John in Africa and an article about our doctors. Among the pictures was a picture of JN and his wife. Looking at her, Jacob asked Zoe, don't you notice anything? Looking closely, she said, there was a woman in the photo who looked perfectly like Christine. Zoe said, so that's why he was looking at her like that the first time he met her. Or maybe Christine had a twin sister. Then she would have known about it. Jacob dialed Christine, asking, how's John? Haven't you arrived? No, but I'm expecting them soon. Are you jealous? No, Christine. We're friends, and my jealousy would be misplaced. I'm calling because I found a picture on the internet of John and his wife in Africa. So? She looks just like you. I'll text you the picture. Jane stood in a lighted parking lot in front of the house and looked at the windows of the apartment where she could no longer enter as a landlady. A hood was pulled over her head, covering most of her face. The windows of the apartment were lit up. Everyone was home except her. And Jane knew she was not welcome there. No one was waiting. Not her daughter, not her husband, not her son, except a relative, Zoe. She is waiting for sure and realizes that such a man as Jacob is just a gift for her, and the children are grown up and housing and a decent salary, and he's a real man himself, not like that went Filks. How did I not recognize this lowlife? A man passed by. Jane recognized him, a senior employee of the housing company she had asked to open the door. The man, slightly drunk, also recognized Jane. Stopped, asked, "Good evening. Are you out for a walk? Is your husband back?" "Good evening. No, I'm not walking. I'm standing here, looking at the life I've lost." "What's wrong with your face, husband?" "No, it's a lover's, Mom, ex. She's serious." "Are you going home?" "I'll go home, but only to my place. I'm not welcome here, and in such a state. I can see you're upset. If you want, can we go to my place? I live alone, 2 rooms. We'll sit and have a drink, and then we'll get into bed." "That's not necessary, let's go." "What are you serving?" "I have everything: alcohol, vodka, cod, neck wine." "Why such a variety?" "I don't drink much, and the tenants pay for their work with alcohol." "And now I see you've had a few drinks." "Yes, our dispatcher was celebrating the birth of her grandson. The men are still there, but I went home." "Where's your wife?" "We haven't lived together for a long time." "What happened?" "Yes, somehow there was no love. The kids grew up and moved away. My daughter got married in another city. She had twins. My wife went to help out and stayed there, married. I don't know, no, I'm still married, but that's okay with me." "What's your name?" "Call Lucas." Since it was slippery, Jane took Lucas by the hand, and they walked in the direction he pointed. Zoe called everyone to dinner. Jacob pulled himself away from the computer, although he wasn't doing anything, just pretending to work. But in reality, he was thinking about how to move on with his life and had no plans for Jane. He realized that meeting her was inevitable. It was unlikely that she would accept being thrown out of her comfortable life in such a way. According to Natalie and Zoe, she had not called either of them during the day she had been away. She had called him 3 times during that time, checking his mail. He saw a letter from Jane, and in the preview, he read the text, and he wasn't interested or excited about it. The email had been sent to spam. Walked into the kitchen. The kids were already sitting at the table. Zoe apologized that she had time to make only pork chops with potatoes and salads of fresh cucumbers and tomatoes with sour cream. Jacob stopped her. "Zoe, you've already done so much in this time, and you don't need more for dinner. Come on, sit down, drop everything, take off your apron." Christine looked at the picture of John and his wife with interest. She really did look like her. That was probably what had struck John the first time they met. But she had no sisters or brothers. Mom and Dad had her all to themselves. Maybe Daddy had sinned somewhere in his youth, but that couldn't have happened either because Christine looked just like her mom. There were only brothers on Mom's side, no daughters Christine's age, just like her. The phone rang. It was John calling, who announced that they were pulling up to the house. Christine answered. "John, pulling into the yard." "I'll open the gate now." Christine pushed the button, and the automatic gate opened. In a minute, a Toyota Land Cruiser drove into the yard. John came out, walked around the car, took Maria in his arms, and carried her into the house. There, he gently put her on her feet. Christine was surprised. "Well, and what's that head bandage for?" "Oh, there's a bump. When I fell on my ski, I split my forehead. You know, it didn't even hurt. Why didn't you tell me about it?" "I only talked about dangerous injuries, and cutting the skin on your head with the tip of a ski is not one of them." "Okay, what else do I know, or rather what haven't I been told?" "Everything. X-rays are done, Mom. I even got a CT scan of my brain, so it showed that I have a brain." "You don't have a brain. Why did you have to go on that highway?" "Mom, don't cry, be happy. The fox is alive and so am I." Christine invited them to the table, but Maria said, "Mom, they fed me at the hospital with semolina. They piled a big bowl of it on me, and I ate it all and drank the combo." "John, come in. You're so worried about us." "Maria, take the phone and call your grandmother. Don't say anything about the injuries. We're fine, and we'll have dinner." "I'd love to. Maria is the one who's been fed, and I've been through my charges. Everything seems to be in order. Where can I wash my hands?" Christine showed John the bathroom and started to help Maria to her room. John looked at this, dismissed Christine, took Maria in his arms, and asked where to carry her. "Oh, John, she can get there on her own. She needs peace for now." "Mom, you should have seen how John carried me up the slope and carried you up there." "What about Jacob?" "Uncle Jacob packed up our skis and carried us. We put Maria down, gave her a phone to call her grandmother, and went into the kitchen. Christine set the table, set the food, and put out a bottle of Spanish dry wine. John said, "I'm actually driving. There's a guest room in the house on the first floor if it's not critical and if no one's waiting for you. You can take it." John agreed, opened the bottle, poured Christine and himself a drink. They drank to Maria's health and ate happily. He noted that everything was very good. Gradually they got to talking, and the conversation went on about life. Christine told about what happened at her husband's place with his wife, Jacob. John asked, "What did you decide?" "I kicked mine out. He's already out of town. My mother came and escorted him out. She commanded a regiment in her day, and the amazing thing is she's totally on my side." John knew what had happened. Jacob had told him about it, but he tactfully kept silent. In turn, he told a little about himself, Christine asking questions gradually. Listened to a brief history of his life. It was simple enough. After completing his education, he and his wife were offered to take part in a medical mission in Africa. They had no children and had agreed, expecting to see the world. It was difficult, especially without language skills. They visited a number of African countries. They gained a lot of experience. They learned how to perform surgeries where there were no life-saving conditions. But they did. Once, my wife went to a neighboring village where a sick woman was brought from the jungle. She tried to save her, but nothing helped. And from her, she herself became infected. The doctor said there was no escape from the disease, and after a while, she died. After working another year, he came home and moved here, works at the hospital. Not married. They sat up late into the night until finally, Christine realized and said, "Oh, John, I'm talking to you, and you probably want to go to bed. You have to go to work tomorrow. How do you start your working day?" "At 8, we have a meeting and then the rounds." "Fine. It's a 10-minute car ride from me to the hospital. No rush. So I'll wake you up at 7:10 a.m. We'll have breakfast together. And Maria, how will she walk tomorrow? If only on one leg or with a crutch, for how long? I can't lie about 2 weeks, maybe. Some ointments. I'll get some myself tomorrow. They put Minfolk ointment on her leg today, and she's got another tube in her pocket." Jane opened her eyes and saw Peter standing beside the bed. "Good morning." "Are you sure it's good morning?" "I don't know. I made breakfast if you want. Get dressed, wash, and eat." "Are you kicking me out?" "Me? No, it's just that yesterday you said you had to call me, but I hid my phone." "You hid it? Why?" "Look, you couldn't talk by this time last night." "Why am I so drunk?" "Give me some water." "No, I'm not giving you water. Here, cabbage brine. Drink it." "Why can't I have water?" "Too bad. You drank alcohol yesterday. It'll make you really sick. Drink the brine and hold the phone." "What's the phone for?" "You said you had to call in sick at work, that you wouldn't go to work looking like that." Jane took a liter jar of brine. "Peter warned me, don't drink too much. It's really cabbage brine, not cabbage pickle. It contains succinic acid, no vinegar in it. And you shouldn't drink too much so as not to burden your heart. I'm thirsty. That's exactly what'll save you from a hangover. Before you drink water, tell me, did we have something? God be with you, I'm not a maniac. I don't go around attacking women. Thank you. You're welcome. I just want to say that yesterday when you came here, you were crying that you lost your man and your good life. You were telling me all about how good your life was. And then you went off on a tangent. You said you wouldn't let them live. I understand, but what's on a drunk's tongue is on a sober man's mind. Tell me, do you need it? Will you help me? No, I'm not in the business of divorces and vaulting other people's families. It's a thankless job. So I should just drop everything and let them be happy? Who are they? My husband and Zoe. I'll tell you what, you've lost your husband obviously, and it's not him you should be thinking about. It's the kids. Besides, you have no pity for your lover's wife. You broke up a family, you took her husband and father out of the family, and you kicked him out yourself. And you're only now remembering your children. I didn't kick the lover out, but he didn't want to leave his wife either. Listen, I'm confused. That's what I'm saying. Your head is a mess. What am I supposed to do? I don't know, but right now, call work and ask for time off. Then you can sit here and figure out what to do, or you can go home and figure out how to live your life. If you are leaving, shut the door. If you stay, cook something. I'm going to work. Don't open the door for anyone and stop drinking. Yesterday from the doorstep. I'll drink only alcohol, that's what's bugging you. Today, eat something. Peter went to work. Jane got up, walked around the apartment, found a large mirror in the bathroom, looked at herself, and was horrified. My God, a shabby cat looks better. The foundation she had applied liberally to cover her bruises had collapsed and smeared the mascara. She'd sopped her soul out in here yesterday, had smeared all over her face. Her hair is disheveled, her hands are bruised and sore from being hit with a cane. Most importantly, all her makeup was left at home. She'd never seen herself like this before. And how well it all started, that's when she, a young and enterprising student, picked up Felix. She'd done some research on him before. He was an honor student, out-of-town military parents, father's a general. He was in Afghanistan. Felix's mother was there with him in a limited contingent of Soviet troops as a freelancer, although, let's say, because of the child, she might not have been allowed to go there. Felix was raised by his grandmother. Here, he was considered an eligible suitor. Things worked out well for Jane. At first, she quickly wooed the gullible Felix, and even for a while, she lived with him together in the student dormitory. And then, on one of the evenings where she was without Felix, who had gone to his mother, she met an imposing man in exchange for her services, and she and he dated for about a year. He helped make her a 2-room apartment in the center. Then he disappeared. He lost his real estate scams, lost his job in a prestigious place, but managed to take his money offshore and go abroad and sort of died there. After him, she met Jacob, and it was all calculated. Jacob had a 4-room apartment, and he knew little about what went on in the student dorm. Since his 3rd year, he had been making good money, though he didn't talk about it much. He worked creating websites. Jacob was caught by the fact that one day she told him that she was pregnant. They got married quickly, but the pregnancy was not confirmed, and Jane said it was just a delay. Jacob believed it. Much later, she did indeed become pregnant and gave birth to a daughter, Natalie. Jacob was happy, unlike Jane, and took a lot of care of his daughter. He idolized her. And when the daughter was 8 years old, Jane again became pregnant and gave birth to his son, David. Having suffered with children in maternity leave, Jane brought a distant relative, Zoe, from the village, on whom she took all the care of the children in the house. For the last 2 years, she had felt at ease. At the same time, she had met Felix again, who had developed a fondness for her. She was happy with everything in her life, the children, and especially Natalie, who was now grown up and could walk around the city on her own. Were a hindrance, there was the risk of meeting her daughter while dating Philks. And then it all came crashing down. Her beautiful life was gone. No one loved her, and no one was waiting for her. No waiting at work. Jane quickly dialed a number. The director, door, answered. Jane, is something wrong? I'd like to take a week off, at least. I've got some family stuff to take care of. No problem. How many days do you need? 5 days, so far. Next Monday I'll be out. Is it serious? But yeah, okay. I'm not asking. You'll be in the office area. Come by, drop off your application today. Thank you. Jane cleaned herself up, disguising her bruised face as much as possible. She got dressed. After some thought, she wrote a note. Peter, thank you for everything. You're right, and I'm a fool. I'll let them go. Then she slammed the door and went home. Jacob picked up Zoe, Natalie, and David in the morning after breakfast and drove them to school. He checked with Zoe about the end of school and said, I'll meet you, and we'll stop at the stores for groceries. Natalie said, Dad, don't wait for me. I have more lessons than they do, and I'll come home on my own. Just buy me a pie. He drove to work, went to the director, reported the business trip was completed in full and ahead of schedule. I know the customer has already paid for the work and bonus for early completion of work transferred. I'm asking for time off. I've already got 2 months of them, if not more. I don't mind. Go to HR and take them. How many days do you need now? Me and my partner need 5 working days this week and 5 working days next week. What was your business trip in such a hurry? So, Scott's getting married. Such a guy, he's an eagle lucky whoever gets him. Who's he marrying? William, you really don't know, do you? No, he's marrying your daughter. They've been living together for a long time. You're the one who's afraid to tell. I see. I was wondering who she rented the place from so we wouldn't interfere with her studies. The address looked familiar. Does my wife know? Neither did she. When were they going to notify us? So, I did, at the groom's request. What should I tell them? I don't know. Do you think I should scare them? You think that'll make my daughter's pregnancy go away? She's still pregnant, something like that. You can't see the belly yet. That's why the rush. What are we going to do? Prepare gifts, notify the family, get ready for the wedding. You were saying 5 minutes ago that the lucky girl who gets him is the lucky one. I didn't know he was making my daughter happy. Are you organizing the wedding since you're taking so much time off? Not really, I'm organizing the divorce. Oh boy, yeah, some people have weddings, some people have divorces. I don't even want to ask what happened. Happened. You take all the days you need. What happened, William? You said you wouldn't even ask what happened. Fine, go to HR. What do you tell your partner about the wedding? What should I tell him? I give them time off. I'm going to have them over tonight, and we're going to figure out how to organize it. Scott has already decided. He rented a private vacation home 10 kilometers from the city. Everything is paid for. There's a restaurant with 200 seats. The guests who get drunk will be assigned to rooms, and they'll have a room for honeymooners. They'll take a bus there and back. Anyway, he'll tell you all about it. Jacob left the office and went to the legal clinic. There he decided and took a coupon for a specialist in divorce proceedings. After half an hour, he was invited by the lawyer, a young pretty girl named Rose. After evaluating her, Jacob doubted that she had experience in divorcing spouses. Catching his doubts, Rose said, "Don't be embarrassed. I have a decent amount of experience. I've been doing this for 3 years. Tell me what you came with." Jacob frankly told everything that had happened and explained, "I want to get a divorce." I want the court to leave my children in my care. It's not about my apartment. I bought it before the marriage. I waived child support. I agreed to divide all property and cash deposits in the percentage of 75% to me, 25% to her. I will not prevent her from seeing the children. If the children agree to see her, all right. I'll meet with your wife today and talk it over. I'll tell you what we agree on. The complaint will be ready tomorrow. You'll need to pay the state fee, and my services, you'll have to pay for my services. Here are all the divorce papers and her contact details. John finished his rounds. He ordered 3 patients discharged and then sat in the resident's room, filling out medical histories. When he finished his routine, he called Maria. She answered, "Hello, what's up?" "I'm just sitting at the computer." "Good for you. Where do you need to be?" "In bed there, you know everything. Go and lie down." "How's your head?" "My head's fine. No dizziness or nausea. My leg hurts." "It's going to hurt. To relieve the pain, rub menthol ointment on the leg. To do this, carefully remove the bandages, lubricate the leg, and carefully, as I showed you yesterday, wrap the bandages around the leg. Are you coming to visit us tonight?" "I don't know about a visit, but I have a patient to see." Jane tidied up the apartment, washed a mountain of dishes, put the empty bottles out of sight, cleaned up Polly's battleground, changed the linens on her bed, started the washing machine, sorted out the things Jacob had moved, and hung them in the closet. At that time, the doorbell rang. Jane looked in, having learned by experience. There was a pretty young woman standing there. So it's some kind of showdown again, she thought, opening the door. The woman introduced herself. "Good afternoon. Are you Jane?" "Yes, that's me." "Who are you?" "I'm a lawyer. Your husband Jacob hired me to handle the divorce proceedings before going to court. I'd like to clarify your position on this matter." "May I come in?" Please come into the kitchen." They went into the kitchen. Jane put the kettle on. She asked, "Tell me, is there any chance of saving our marriage?" "I think not. Jacob doesn't have an aggressive attitude. He's approaching this in a businesslike manner, and that's a clear sign that the marriage can't be saved, and he's not even considering it. Can I ask you something indiscreet?" "I'm listening." "The bruises. Did your husband beat you up?" "No, they're the result of a visit from the lover's mom." "Are you going to file a complaint? Would you like her to drag me into the ground? What are you putting on those bruises?" "Nothing. I don't have any at home, and I don't want to go to the drugstore looking like this. When I'm done, I can go to the drugstore and get you some mud." "What's that?" "It's dry colonies of freshwater sponges. It relieves swelling, removes lividity. If you could buy me some bread, I'd appreciate it. It's a deal." And now, on the subject of divorce. Jane and Rose discussed all matters, agreeing to meet all Jacob's demands. Jane was being reasonable and realistic. She realized that Natalie would not accept her, and her son would take the same position. Looking at his older sister, Jacob would not interfere. Zoe, out of nobility, would not interfere either. She's going to have a problem with the kids, and Jacob won't give them up, so she's free to go. And most importantly, he doesn't want to collect child support and is willing to give her 25%. Jane signed all the papers Rose had given her, asked, "Jacob loved me so tenderly. Why would he just give me up so easily now?" "You see, Jane, it's one step from love to hate. You've taken a dozen or 2 steps from love to hate with your attitude toward him, the kids, the house. There's no going back. You've become indifferent to him. Believe me, in my experience." Jacob picked up Zoe and David from school and drove with them to the mall. As he drove up to the mall, he said, "Zoe, I'm invited to a wedding on Friday. We'll be out for 2 days. I think I'll leave Natalie at home as the eldest. What about me?" "You're coming with me. I have an invitation for 2. We'll be out of town at the Forest Fairy Tale Vacation Home. I hope you don't mind keeping me company. No, I don't mind. But I don't have anything dressy to wear. Well done, that's right. You should get dressed. That's what we came here for. No objections since we'll be out for 2 days. Take 2 outfits. What kind of outfits? Fashionable. Don't forget the shoes and accessories. They went to the store, called the girl consultant. They bought 2 beautiful fashionable dresses, 1 pantsuit with 3 blouses under it. They picked up shoes and accessories. Then they bought groceries. They bought a cake for Natalie and David. In the evening, Rose called to tell me about her meeting with Jane. She told me that Felix's mom was really into Jane. She won't leave the house. Rose even had to go to the pharmacy to get medicine and to the grocery store to get bread for her. At the end of the day, John went to the pharmacy at the hospital and bought menthol ointment, a pill used for concussions. He rented crutches, walked to the parking lot, started the car, and drove to Christine. As he pulled up, he called Christine and told her he would be there soon. She opened the gate, and he put the car in the yard. He went in, said hello, washed his hands, and walked with Christine to Maria's room. Maria was awake, lying in bed, comfortably settled with a tablet, racing tanks. Christine noticed, "Is that normal for a girl, Mom?" "You don't understand. I'm so far advanced here, Maria. You'd better read your lessons." I did. The girls called. I wrote everything down and even did my homework at the table. Uncle John told me to. John, who had been silent until now, confirmed it and inquired, "How's the leg?" "Well, I put some ointment on it. It felt better, but I can't stand on it yet. It hurts, and it's swollen. The swelling will go down eventually, but not right away. In the meantime, here's some BL supports." After the examination and dressing, Christine invited John to dinner. He agreed but said, "I have to get home tonight. I need to do some laundry, clean up, unlike a bum, and it's uncomfortable to embarrass you." "John, everything is comfortable, and you are not embarrassing us. If you want, I'll rent you a guest room on the first floor." "I don't know. It's all of a sudden." "You know it's sudden for me too." John thought about it and said, "And if I say, 'Christine, marry me'? That's really sudden. I haven't divorced my husband yet, and I don't know you. Does it matter? A stamp and a passport don't matter much. We'll fix that in time. I want to adopt Maria. It's too late. She's a grown-up girl, but she'll be my daughter." There was a noise. It was Maria getting used to the crutches, and soon she was in the kitchen. Christine looked at her and asked, "Daughter, sit down at the table. We need to talk." Maria, realizing that something important had happened, sat down at the table. Christine continued, "Maria, John has proposed to me, and I want to consult with you." "That's great." Maria rejoiced and added, "Mom, finally a man will appear in our house, and then even to hammer a nail. And that you, Mom, did everything yourself. You are a beautiful, strong woman, but still, you need support. I guess I should thank Jacob for this trip and the fox that ran across my path. No, we'll catch it and make a collar for it so you don't run on the piste in front of the skiers." Friday, Jacob saw the family off to school and stayed home alone. Since he was a witness on the groom's side, he had to get ready. He got his suit, shirt, tie. It turned out that everything had already been ironed by Zoe. Another shirt, on the second day, she neatly folded and packed along with her dress. Zoe took the children to school once again, instructing Natalie and David how to behave when left alone. She went to the salon to have her hair done and returned home. Jacob, hearing that she had come, came out of his room and asked, "Zoe, and when did you have time to prepare my suit and my shirts when you said you were going to the wedding? I figured you'd need a suit. Plus, it's for 2 days, that means a fresh shirt on the second day. Since you invited me, I ironed the dresses you bought me. You know, honestly, in the last 4 years, I've never felt taken care of by another person. I'm so grateful to you. Thank you. I will say that I understand that no one but you has taken care of me in all the years you've been living with us. We should probably get ready. We'll get there before all these meetings. The bride price and we have to buy flowers. They arrived at the groom's house. He was so nervous, he was afraid of being late. But everything worked out. They got to the bride's parents' house. Linda's father came running out and said, "Jacob, help me out. The maid of honor had a high fever during the night and won't be able to come to the wedding. We need someone to fill in. I suggest we ask Zoe to be a bridesmaid." Zoe stepped up to the plate and agreed. The bride and groom were pronounced husband and wife. Jacob, Zoe, and the guests walked out. Everyone got into their cars and drove to the rented vacation home. The guests were put in their rooms. Jacob and Zoe were put in the same room. After that, everyone gathered in front of the restaurant entrance. At the entrance, there were 2 plates, and first the bride and groom broke them with their feet. They went into the hall, sat down at the tables, and the fun began. Toasts sounded, guests drank, snacked, danced. The toastmaster and his assistant worked tirelessly. Jacob went to the bathroom. It was empty. He went into a stall and heard 2 young men discussing the guests. One of them went into the stall next to him, the other was washing his hands. And the one in the booth asked his friend, "Well, how do you like the witness?" "Which one?" "The one who was with us. She's cute. She's all dressed up. I think I'm going to get her to do a little meet and greet tonight." "And the witness?" "He seems to be with her. Besides, how are you going to get her to do it?" "Trust me, a pill of ecstasy in her champagne and a sleeping pill in his glass will do wonders. If you want, I'll let you use her too. We'll see. I am off." One of the young men who were talking went out. Jacob quietly walked out of the stall and stood opposite the door of the stall where the other one was. Finally, a commotion was heard. The door opened, and Jacob, without looking, struck a blow with his fist in the area of the face. He always prepared himself for that punch because even in sparring when he was boxing, that punch would send his sparring partner into a knockout. The guy who didn't expect this before he realized anything was sent into a deep knockout. Jacob checked his pockets, took out 2 packs of different pills. He turned the poor guy around in the stall and said, "You gotta flush after yourself." He dumped him in the toilet, threw the pills in there, and flushed the water. He made sure he didn't suffocate, washed his hands, and left the toilet. Back in the hall, he sat down at the table. The groom, sitting next to him, asked, "Is something wrong?" Jacob briefly told him about the incident in the restroom. The groom said, "You did the right thing." Then he invited the bride to the wedding dance. Jacob did not hide the fact that passing by his friend, a sturdy guy Scott, said something to him and went on. The guy got up and went to the exit. On the way, he called one of the active dancers, said something to him, and they left the hall. He returned to the hall a few minutes later, said something to the groom who was walking with the bride to his seat after the dance. When they approached, Jacob asked the groom, "What happened?" "Yes, Jacob, rest up. Nothing happened." The other one also had ecstasy pills and sleeping pills. They were forced to eat all the pills, then they left the wedding. It's 10 kilometers to the city, their buddies are supposed to pick them up. He got a call. Honestly, I knew those 2 were unreliable, so now it's the perfect excuse to blow them off for good. Who was that guy who talked to them? That he's a regional karate champion. He doesn't drink at all, and he hates drugs. The music started playing, the bride and groom went dancing. Jacob invited Zoe, and they joined the dancing couples. So reported, I called the kids. They are doing fine. They had dinner, Natalie did the dishes and put David to bed. She's tucking herself in now. Thank you, I've been so busy. The wedding continued. Gradually, the hall began to empty. At the beginning of the first hour of the night, the bride and groom went to rest. Jacob and Zoe also went to rest. They returned to the room and only then noticed that they had a big double bed in their room. After all, it was calculated that a husband and wife would be vacationing here. Oral thought about it and said, "Jacob, after all, we are not children. I'm going to take a shower, then you go." She took the light robe she had brought with her and went out. Jacob watched TV. So came out of the shower, he went to freshen up. When he came out of the shower, the light was off. He lay down on his side and fell asleep. In the morning, they woke up in each other's arms. Zoe's head was resting on his shoulder, her luxurious hair was spread across his chest. Zoe asked, "Jacob, turn away, please. I will take a shower and get dressed." Jacob obediently turned away. Soon, Zoe returned from the shower, saying, "It's time to pack, everyone is expected at the restaurant by 10 o'clock. And Jacob, I'm a grown woman, and I don't pretend to be anything. What happened tonight between you and me doesn't obligate you to anything. Zoe, I have started divorce proceedings, there's no turning back. I'm asking you to be my wife. Well, as soon as I'm divorced." Zoe was silent. Jacob turned to her, she was crying, standing in her robe beside the bed. Jacob took her hand and slowly pulled her to him, asked, "Did I hurt you?" "No, it's just so sudden." "What did you decide me? Should I undress?" "Yes, and come here. We'll be done by 10 o'clock. The wedding ended around 6 p.m. Zoe called the children twice during that time. Natalie was doing a fine job as head of the apartment. They got a ride home. As they walked to the door, Zoe asked Jacob, "Is it true that you got into a fight over me last night?" "No, Zoe, it doesn't sound like that, but I did give some people a little face," Jacob replied. "What happened?" Zoe inquired. Jacob recounted what had happened in the bathroom. Zoe just replied, "What scumbags? Tell me, how are we going to behave at home?" "The same way we did, just like we were. Only we'll sleep in the same bed," Jacob affirmed. "What will the kids say?" Zoe pondered. "I think we'll explain everything to Natalie today, and David won't pay much attention to it, but we'll inform him too. And let's move him into my room, it's bigger and away from the bedroom." "We're very sleepy," Jacob suggested. "I agree," Zoe replied. Time flew by. Jacob's life at home got better. He had stopped traveling for the time being. Rose finally called to tell him that a divorce hearing had been scheduled. She asked him if he would attend or if he would leave everything to her. Jacob said he would be in court as well. He arrived at the courthouse 15 minutes before the scheduled time. Jane was already there. She saw him, walked over, and looked at him hopefully. She said, "Hi, how are you doing? How's it going?" "Yeah, I'm fine. Everything's going on. How about you?" "Zoe? Better than me. I actually thought you were going to ask about the kids. I'll ask about them too. Just tell me, losing me, was it hard for you at first?" Jane inquired. "Yeah, then I realized I have everything I need without you, kids, a woman I love, a decent job. But you chose to be with another man. By doing that, you and your lover risked everything, marriage, families, love, and respect. For you, the happiness of your children. You risked everything. And what did you get? Tell me, what do you have now?" "That's right. Neither you nor he has anything. Everything we've built over the years, you've lost forever. And there's no going back." "There's been no going back since the moment I found out you cheated on me," Jacob asserted. "Yeah, it was bad, it was hard, but I managed to pull myself together. And then I realized the most important thing, you never loved me, you never loved our children. And that's why you care more about who's better today, you or Zoe. I'm sorry, I didn't come here to fight and get even. I heard you, I realized that. It's just that one day, after a good drink in someone else's apartment, I realized what an I am. And that's when I made the decision to accept it. I can't get you and the kids back. You did the honorable thing in divorcing me. You didn't try to steal anything, you just left without a scandal and without a fight. About my lover, I don't know. Know where he is or what's wrong with him. I broke up with that wimp. Maybe he's already living with his wife? No, he's not living with his wife. She got a divorce, got his daughter's alimony, and she's getting married to who? A real man, not you, Jacob retorted. No, I haven't gotten a divorce yet. I'm sorry if I'm making fun of you, Zoe, but I'm jealous. I know what I've lost and what she's gained, Jane admitted. The hearing was over quickly. There was no argument. Jane surprisingly, honestly admitted that it was all her own fault. She didn't disagree with the plaintiff's proposal for property division. She also agreed to the dissolution of the marriage and to leave the children with their father. Jacob's defense in court additionally presented materials testifying that the father is best able to ensure the interests of the children. A certificate from work that Jacob will not be sent on long business trips also was provided. A document, the conclusion of a specialist psychologist, which revealed a clearly expressed attachment of the children to the father. And since there was no dispute between Jane and Jacob about where the children would live, the court ruled in favor of the plaintiff. After the announcement of the court's decision, they went outside, and Jacob saw tears in Jane's eyes. Crying, she said, "Forgive me if you can. I am not worthy of you and your love and children. Children I see every day. I get up early and go to school. I see you bring Natalie, David, and Zoe there, and I know the kids are going to be fine with you and Zoe. If you want to hang out with the kids, I'll be fine. Just call ahead because we always have plans. This weekend, the kids are the centerpiece of those plans." Thank you for joining us today on Deep Stories. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video.